Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. All right, so the first topic today is if an animal is suffering, should we take it out of its misery or leave it alone? Um, oh,
Yeah. So what are my
um,
thoughts on that? Um, I know that there's this book by Eisel Mazard that he talks about um petists because he breaks down the different types of vegans out there in the world, and he would say that because he says that there's certain people that believe that because um animals in the wild have to suffer a miserable life, then some people think it's better to euthanize animals to keep them out of their misery than to allow them, than to make them live in a very cruel world where there's going to be suffering to them.
mm,
Um, I kind of disagree with those people's sentiments. I,
mm.
I think he has too. um, because um because there's a part of their life that is good, and if you take them out, like euthanize them, you're getting them to miss out on the good parts of life. See what I'm saying?
Okay, I was imagining more of something suffering that doesn't have a chance to get out of it. Like maybe if a cat attacks a bird and breaks its wing, aside from maybe if a vet knows how to fix the wing or something, if we know that bird, or if we can assume that bird is likely to never fly again and it's just going to flop around and suffer and die in an hour, do we take it out of its misery quick?
Yeah, it's like the thing is, there's I feel like there's a lot of veganism that is based off of making decisions on behalf of other animals without asking them for their permission. And to me, I don't think that's vegan. I think that we need to see where the animal is at and see what they want first.
So how would
If
you do
they
that in the
feel
case with the bird?
you're going to see if it's like trying to um live. That's
Hmm.
like one of the first things. And then if it looks at you and, doesn't want, it seems miserable or doesn't feel like it wants to be in a certain way, you know, I believe the first thing to do is try to alleviate that suffering, because it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Just because something has a broken leg doesn't mean that it's not having the rest of its body be okay.
Hmm.
If you like kill the animal just because it has a broken leg, and that's like neglecting the whole rest of its body, that's good because that means you're killing the good of it too. And if it's, say, if the leg is just, 10% of its body, now you're killing 90% of the good part of its body that it might have wanted to keep alive. You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. Well, I guess it would come down to our understanding and what could happen. So if something had a broken leg, let's say I was a vet of sorts, and therefore I knew that this certain break would never heal in a way that something could survive out in the wild, then the 90% wouldn't matter if it couldn't heal. But then the question would come down to how much do we know each individual and what seems worth the risk. So I do know what you mean, though. It just depends on
I
if it's
mean,
likely to
just because
heal.
it has a reduced, quality of life, doesn't mean it has no quality of life. I mean, there's some animals, they're born blind and it's like they don't even notice. They
Mhm.
adapt. So maybe there's going to be suffering, but it's temporary. So instead of trying to, get rid of the problem, which I feel is like a NIMBY fallacy where it's like out of sight, out of mind, like not my problem anymore. I killed it, I'm done. Well, why don't we try to help it adapt to a new life and get it thinking in a mentality where it's not noticing that it has these problems? So even if it's, it has a broken leg, it doesn't mean that I can't like keep itself from enjoying the parts of life as if it didn't have a broken leg, you know?
Okay.
Even if it has it, it might not notice it, you know?
So do you mean more so in a way where we have like sanctuaries and therefore it's not part of the wild anymore, but it's worth keeping it alive because it can enjoy life under our protection?
Yeah, if we help it along. I mean, because the thing is, I feel like when you keep something alive, there is a chance that it can get better to the point where you're giving it a chance to be able to come back to where it was originally, or, you know, it's about preservation to me. If you're going to kill something, you stop it from having a chance of being able to contribute towards betterment. You
Yeah.
know, to like having life, you know, and contributing and being productive to the world. That's what I'm trying to think.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's I think it's complicated. So I have put a couple animals out of their misery. One was that bird situation I was talking about where a cat that lives near my house attacked a bird and the bird was just flopping around. And so to me it felt like it it was just going to flop around, suffer, and likely die within like a day. Probably if it didn't die of its wound, then die of starvation from not being able to get up. So I put it out of its misery. But it is interesting to think about, like, that there is a possibility that the wing could have maybe somehow mended itself. But
Yeah,
then
I feel
yeah.
like there's this appeal to convenience where instead of trying to help out the animal, you just relinquish your responsibility by killing it, saying, "Well, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to handle this. I
Mhm.
feel it's not going to get better," and make a decision based off of your own thinking, cognition, and you know, say, okay, you know, I killed it, it's done. I don't have to think about it anymore. It's like, well, if you tried, maybe you could have done something to improve the situation. I mean, obviously, if you do something to make the animal's life worse, that is a problem. Sure, I would say don't do that. But the thing
Mhm.
is, it's about trying. First thing to do is try, see what you can do. And usually people are always feeling like they're deprived, that they don't have anything available to them, like they can't do it. But the thing is, once people start trying and put the power within themselves, because we're raised in a culture where we always have to ask permission to do anything, and we always have the control taken away from us, that we are not in charge. So people feel like they're not worth much and they're not capable and everything. But once we start putting the worth and capability and value into ourselves and hold ourselves responsible and accountable, then we can start seeing, well, instead of saying, well, I can't, think, okay, maybe right now I don't know what I'm doing, but maybe I can if I put myself in that position and try. And maybe once you start looking, you might be able to find something that can help and make it better, you know?
Yeah, well, I definitely agree with part of that. I don't agree with the convenience side. I mean, somebody could do something like that because of convenience, but in
Mm-hmm.
my case it wasn't, and in many cases it wouldn't be. And I also don't necessarily agree in my case with the the idea of it being that we are part of a culture that has to ask permission for things. But I do agree with the element of maybe a lack of understanding and a lack of knowledge. Now, people have to go off of what knowledge they have. But for example, let's say right now you happen to have some understanding about birds that is such a simple fix that it maybe 9 times out of 10, if somebody thinks an animal is going to suffer to death, they're right. But the 1 out of 10, there's actually a simple fix, or even not a simple fix, just a fix at all. Then learning about that fix would be an interesting route to go. But yeah, let's play out what could have
Well, I wanted
happened.
to talk on that
Oh
because
yeah,
the
go for
thing
it.
is, um, if we don't try, we're never going to find any solutions. But the more we try and the more we work on solutions, the more likely we're going to find them. And once we find them, then we're able to share them for other birds or animals that if they have this same situation, they can be healed rather than suffer by having their life cut short. So I'm saying their life being cut short is suffering in itself. And having that life extended, the amount of suffering that could have happened from their life being cut short could be overcome by the amount of benefit that they could have gotten by living longer. So the more that we try, the more we can accomplish in allowing for life extension, of allowing for them having their life, like the good part of their life, be stretched out longer to have less suffering overall. That's what I'm trying to say.
For sure. No, and I totally get that. So okay, so let's play it out. Actually, before I throw out ideas, let's see what you would do. So what do you do when you see a bird attack this cat? You walk outside, the cat runs away. The bird's got a wing looking like it's completely like kind of broken and snapped back, and then it's flopping around like it wants to survive. It's wanting to be a bird and do its thing and not have a broken wing, but it can't even get off the ground at all. What do you do?
Yeah, this has happened in my neighborhood where there was some bird that did have a broken wing, and what they ended up, so here's what actually happened. This is why I'm on where I am, is they called wildlife services in my city. I did not know that this phone number actually existed, but because they tried to help this bird out, they gave me that phone number because I asked them for it. And in that turn, I was able to use that phone number for so many other animals. It's ridiculous. So it's like the animal services came and they took the bird and said that they will help it out. I don't know what happens and what happened after that, but I know that at least there was a chance that they'd be in good hands and a chance that they could recover in a time where they probably wouldn't, just sitting there. So I feel also it's like, why do we have cats that are going to like attack birds? Why do we put them in a place where they can? So it's like, not only like we need to, if there's ever a problem, we need to start thinking about them and seeing, why do we have this problem in the first place? And what can we do to stop it? If we kill things, we just stop our extensive trying and thinking and preventing problems from happening and lessening the impacts of them. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't want to end things so soon. That,
for
like
sure.
nothing comes of it.
Yeah,
it just makes things worse. Yeah.
Well, I mean, sometimes, but yeah, it depends on the situation and what you're capable of, for sure.
Like you want to give things a chance. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
anyway,
sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just yeah, okay. So hold on. I got a thousand thoughts flowing through my head. But I agree with you on the cat thing. I mean, in general, as you probably know, I don't think we should have pets whatsoever, and we shouldn't have domesticated them. And so there's that issue. But yeah, as far as the wildlife thing, I found a squirrel, tiny baby squirrel on some cement that fell out of a tree, and I thought it was dead, but then it wasn't. And I actually like helped it back to life, and I hung out with it for like half a day, and I called a place, and they came and took it. And I don't know what happened to it after that. Its name was Herman, and that it's a really cool squirrel. But so yeah, that is a good point, that you could call a place and they could come and take care of it. Then it would come down to ideas of weighing out various things, like how many resources we should put towards fixing something that happened in nature, cars driving.
Yeah, it opens up a can of worms. It reveals, like, once you start seeing one problem, it's like the tip of an iceberg. Then once you start looking, you'll see more and more problems, and you're going to be able to go from incapable of doing anything to being able to see some problem that you can fix. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, say, back in the, I think the Victorian era or something, they were saying that they would bury people when they thought they were dead, but turns out they were alive. It's
Oh,
like
wow.
there might be animals that might be alive and wanting to be alive, but when you kill them, you just wipe out any chance of them like recovering and coming back.
Yeah. Well,
So
and
it's like,
something's come down to, at some point you have to make a choice. Like maybe 1 out of 1 billion people that are on life support and they're practically brain dead. 1 out of 1 billion, you hear these crazy cases where somebody comes out of it, but oftentimes they'll pull the plug because it's not worth the resources to keep somebody alive that's essentially dead. And so I think the same thing would come down to a lot of different topics, but it's a very fascinating point. I had not thought of that element before. I thought about it with the squirrel because the squirrel was fine. It was just
mhm.
it just was abandoned. Where the bird, I viewed it as more of, this thing is going to die, and so I want to take it out of its misery. I do want to call after this talk. I'm actually going to call whatever the place was, a wildlife reserve of
Yeah.
sorts, and I want to ask them what their limits are of what they do. Like, do they come out to help a bird that has a broken wing? Do they come out, and they might base it off how big a creature is, or just how likely it is to fix. But I am curious what they'll do, so I will call. But let's
See,
let
like
let's
us doing this thought process leads us to more questions. And once we
yeah.
start having more questions, then we start getting more answers. And once we have an answer, then we are knowledgeable and we're able to relay that. And it just
Oh,
builds. Like, you want
100%.
to build destruction, or do you want to build, knowledge,
Right?
creation?
Yeah, no, knowledge is
Like,
good.
imagine that squirrel, like someone looks at it and they thought it was dead. It's the thing is, you want to like look at the animal and see what and where they're coming from. Are they moving? Are they breathing? Are they trying to come back? Like, you don't want to just make a judgment on your own saying, well, it looks dead, let me just kill it. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I'm saying we need to give pause and try to like evaluate the situation based off of the animal's perspective rather than our perspective. And I feel like that's where the definition of veganism goes wrong, because it's based off of what we think. Well, let's just avoid animals. It's like, what about what the animals think? Like,
Um,
what do they want? So I feel that's why I made my own definition. That's about helping animals and seeing what they need rather than what I need. Because just me appropriating my humanistic thoughts to them is like anthropomorphizing the situation.
mhm.
Well, there
Yeah,
you go.
yeah, and it's complicated because it's hard to know what an animal might want. It's hard to know what the likelihood of saving something is. But I agree with you. That's what's important about having conversations like this, and just conversations in general, is they usually lead to more knowledge, which is good. But let's take it to a situation where we don't have the resources that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
um where, let's say, we're out in nature, we're out in the woods, and the same thing happened. There's a bird flopping around, and you're on this hike where you're like so many hours into this hike. What would you say? Would you call it unreasonable if somebody didn't want to pick up this bird and carry it back because they were worried about diseases from animals and whatnot, and so they put it out of its misery?
Well, so like for me, I take first aid and other survival well, not classes, but I read the books and everything. And
Hmm.
so if something has a broken body part, you don't want to move it, but you can like splint it. So as I said, there might be problems, but they don't have to be problems. Like they don't have to be noticed. They don't have to be as hard as that they are. Like, as I said, I believe there's a solution to every problem, but then there's
Hmm.
also shortcuts, tricks around it. where just because we have a problem doesn't mean like it has to impact us. So yeah, if there's like a broken, say it's two people, so say we're both walking in this doing a hike, like what I would do is I would have one person stay with the animal so that they track where it's located, and I would try to like get into a splint, or if it is able to be carried, carry it, but I would probably go down, try to find someone, but and then bring them back, because the thing is I don't think I'd be able to really fix the wing, and even if I did, it like if I could, then probably I'd do that first. I try to, but you know, obviously, maybe if we're hiking, it's like we might hike at most an hour, hour and a half into a forest, because I've done hikes into a forest.
Yeah,
But
same
if you
here.
run back, it's a lot shorter. Like I would walk someplace in the forest, it would take me an hour, or let's just say a half hour, 45 minutes. So a 45 minutes of walking into a forest is only a few minutes to run back out. So I could just run back out very quickly and then I could get someone to come in. So it's like I would definitely try, because the thing is, it's a wing, it's only a part of an animal. And I don't think it could get infected that quickly. So I definitely think it like that I shouldn't just get rid of the rest of the body that is good and trying to live just because one body part is failing. You know, it's like
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm just
there is
wondering.
that saying, we're as strong as the weakest link, right? Or in a chain.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, you know, you got to take that into account, but I mean, a broken wing, it might drag down the whole animal, but it's a broken wing is still a wing, it still has value. So I believe I take it from a value perspective, like how much value can the body and spirit and everything combined compare to the life living. So if the value of the body and how the potential for it too. So like if there's say cancer and it's not going to recover, I don't know, you'd have to take into that into account. But I'm saying like there's always chances, there's always stuff that we don't know, but we have to think how much can we recover to get it to being able to live.
Yeah. Oh,
That is
you cut out a little bit. Can you hear me?
in comparison. So it's like maybe of what it was before. They had 7%, you know, so we have 97% to work with. We have like 3% down.
Well, here, let me
But like when it's like in the negative, when
Mm,
we're causing it to be worse, like negative means not only is this one suffering, but maybe there's more life suffering in
yeah.
addition to this one life,
Well, let me throw some
then that
ideas
is
at
a
you.
problem.
Yeah, let me throw some ideas real quick.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think it's great that you would run back. Hopefully, you'd not be too exhausted from the hike for the running back. Everybody has their different
Nah, if we're
levels.
walking.
Um,
Yeah.
so and it's great that you would put time in your day and effort into helping the animal. I also agree. I would want to put time into helping animals, maybe more than most people. I think I've mentioned to you before that if I see a worm on the street, I will pick it up and put it in a dirt area. But I can't
Kind of
I
are
can't affect my
cutting
entire
out.
what's that? Oh.
Oh, sorry, you cut out.
Oh, okay. I was just saying like so if I come outside in the morning and it was a rainy day and there's a worm on the street, I will put it I'll pick it up and put it in dirt. Most people wouldn't pick it up. They don't want to touch a slimy worm or touch
Yeah,
dirt. And
it looks bad. Yeah.
but I will do it. And sometimes I'll do like I'll get 5 in a row, but I'll look and see. I don't know if it's different in California because of the lack of rain, but I will see.
Oh no, it rains a lot here.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Well,
I
where
will
I live, because I live in the mountains. Yeah.
Oh, I
Anyway,
see. Okay. But yeah,
it's a
sometimes I'll
desert mountain, but still it does rain.
gotcha. Sometimes I'll see like
Yeah.
100 worms at once. I can't pick them all up. I can't sacrifice. I can sacrifice some minutes to do this thing, but I can't sacrifice like work hours or, various different things. So I think a lot of people wouldn't be willing to sacrifice the if they're 2 hours into a hike, and then most people, I would guess, would not be able to not only run back, but wouldn't be able to even walk back at the speed that they walked the 2 hours in. So I don't think most people would put that level of care into it. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but the idea of there's two people and one's going to stay and the other one's going to go, and losing that comfort of two people being together. And then I don't even know if the rescue wildlife people would
Would go
even
in.
would they go 2 hours into a to protect something out in nature that has been harmed. And so it's great that you would. And hell, if somebody had your mindset and went to school for becoming a veterinarian and figured out how to fix it themselves, and they could go out, and anytime they came across an animal like that, they could fix it and give people their card so they could call them up and they could go fix it. That's great. I think there are cases where it's reasonable to call something right or wrong. And there are many cases where I would say this is wrong. Like we could just list any number of factory farming things. This is actually wrong. Whereas somebody making the choice to put a bird out of its misery 2 hours into a hike into nature, I don't feel convinced that it would be fair to call it wrong.
I mean, like, say the way back is too dangerous where you start running and you slip and you fall on the rocks and you break your arm too,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So that's why I was saying about comparing like the proportion of the value of your life to like how much that you have at that moment and how much it can be potentially. So it's like helping out that life, maybe you can increase it by 3%, but if you're going to decrease it your life by 30% to help out that 3%, then that starts to not make that that direction wouldn't make sense. So you have to think of another direction where that 3% increase is going to be outweighing any negative like for any others. So it's like you have to add up all the percentages. So say it takes out from my life 1%, then that 3% is worth it. But if it takes out of my life 30%, that won't be worth it. But I'm saying like people will tell me sometimes that I'm really lucky that I have my health knowledge that I could accomplish all these things that they don't because they have like go to the hospital, you know? But the
Hmm.
thing is, it's not luck. I realize that there are these health issues, and so I definitely went and got a degree just for that purpose. So I feel like I believe in trying. You know, if it doesn't make sense to do that, then you don't do that, but you keep trying to look for something better. Maybe say you're too busy because you have to go to work. Maybe you could tell someone else so that they could do it if they are not busy, you know? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like, you always got to try to find a way to make it work. But there are directions that don't work and there are directions that do. So, as I said, because there's a solution to every problem, it's up to us to find that solution and go in that direction. Like if it's the percentages are being outweighed by the benefits, that's not a solution. You got to look for the solution. That's what I'm trying to say. And at least try. Like if you can't do it, obviously if you weren't there, like it would still happen anyway. But since you are there,
Mhm.
if you're going to if you because you're given a chance, it's your responsibility to try. to help.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I'm
Well,
saying.
and there's different levels of trying, and there's different level. But I agree with you completely. Like you were saying about if you ran for help and then broke your own arm, you like
Hmm.
it wouldn't be worth it. The
No.
risk that could come in, and so one complication is a lot of cases with animals. There's worry about disease. I think birds are a main one that most people will say like don't touch birds with your bare hands
Hmm.
because disease and stuff like that. And I think most diseases actually happen to come, or a lot of I don't know if viruses are the same or if it's just disease, but the way humans keep animals all crowded in one area, a lot of
Hmm.
things come from that issue. And so I think it's reasonable. I don't know how many animals in nature don't touch other animals naturally for this reason, aside from the ones that eat other animals. But it seems that there's good reason to not have like hand-to-hand contact with animals. And so, which is why, in my mind, at least my go-to is that we should leave animals alone. We shouldn't have pets. All animals should be in nature doing their thing, and we just
Hmm.
we don't mess with their situation. Um, and so the idea of helping an animal out is complicated. It's at least way more complicated than, say, helping a human out. Um, at least because we are human. So like we can be aware that, I mean, obviously a human could have a disease of sorts, but for the most part, if you find a baby in the forest, you can feel fine picking it up. Where a bird, I don't know if I'd want to pick it up for that disease issue.
Oh,
Um,
well, I think, see, the thing about the disease is actually the other way around. We can actually give them diseases and make them sick, especially if they're injured and there's an open cut. And the thing
Mhm.
is, I believe that if you don't know what you're doing, then you shouldn't be doing that, because then you can make things can go wrong and you can make things
Mhm.
worse. Those are not solutions. I'm saying if you have an ability to do something and you know how to do something, or if you can look to see what you can do, then you give yourself a chance to be able to do something. But I'm
Mhm.
saying, like, when you relinquish your responsibility by not trying and just killing it without seeing what it needs, that's not good, because that animal could be able to take care of itself and be productive and help others out. But when you relinquish your responsibilities of out of sight, out of mind, that
Mhm.
doesn't help anything.
Oh,
Like there was
definitely.
this quote I saw today where it's like, like if you do eye for an eye, eventually the whole world goes blind. So it's
Mhm.
like, if you just kill everything, it's like, what comes of it? A dead world. Like, it doesn't accomplish anything, because if we had abundance, it would be a greater value than if everything was dead.
I don't.
So
Well,
that's why I don't believe in killing it.
I don't think that would fit in with the idea of putting something out of its misery, because it wouldn't be an eye for an eye as far as if you kill something and then everything's dead, because you're only killing the thing that is having
Well,
this
it's like
issue.
the disease part. You say you're worried about it creating diseases, so it's like you're trying to kill it to keep it from giving you the disease, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah. So it does apply, is what I'm saying.
Well, no, I just meant the part where you said eye for an eye.
Oh.
If you kill something, then eventually everything's going to be dead. But it's this isn't referring to
Yeah.
just killing something for fun. It's killing something in a unique situation where
Hmm.
it wouldn't lead to everybody being dead, was all I was saying.
Well, I mean, as you were saying, like, if we're going to like leave animals alone, then why would we be
Mhm.
killing them? You know what I'm saying? If we're worried
Mhm.
about disease and stuff, I'm saying like sometimes killing an animal actually creates more problems for ourselves, because we are going to be in contact with an animal. And when they do die, then they actually are more susceptible for disease, because when they're alive, they have an immune system that protects
Mhm.
against that. So I'm saying, like, people think that, it's doing justice, killing them, getting them out of their misery, but it's like
Mhm.
sometimes the misery is only beginning,
Gotcha.
because that dead animal can actually for all the animals around it too. Yeah,
Yeah.
spreads.
Okay, so
Anyway,
are you saying that instead of putting it out of its misery, you would just leave it where it's at?
yeah, if people don't know what to do, first thing is to try. But if they
Yeah.
really cannot think of anything, then they should not do anything if they're not able to do something. But like
Interesting.
think about who else can do help, who else, what else can I do? Like look around first. And if you really can't, then that's okay not to do anything because at least you tried. You gave it a chance, which is better than nothing.
Is there
But
any level of suffering that you would feel differently on?
as I said, everything, I believe if something wants to live, I'm going to try to help it live. Like, it's not up to me to figure out if it's able to or not, because there's always a chance that it could be alive. It's always a chance that it won't be. Who am I to say, hey, this is going to be dead right now in a few seconds and it comes back to life, or I'm like, oh, this is gonna be alive and it doesn't make it, like it
Yeah.
just doesn't, you can't work off of that. It's just subjective, and what our
Mhm.
thinking is based off of compared to reality. So we can't really base off of what we're thinking of. I'm just saying, like, at least try. But if you cannot do something, don't try to do something that you don't have expertise in, because then you can cause more damage than just doing nothing. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if you can't do anything, you just leave it alone, because the thing is, it's not your responsibility to take care of others' lives. It's their responsibility to stay alive and do what it takes for themselves. And if we interfere, we're making that decision for them rather than them making the decision for themselves, and that's relinquishing autonomy from that
Mhm.
being, and that's not fair to them, because it's
Yeah,
we're mixing responsibilities. It's not our responsibility to decide the fate of that animal. It's that animal's decision to
yeah.
make that choice. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. I mean, I don't fully agree. Like I wouldn't judge somebody for putting an animal out of its misery if they thought it was suffering. But if I thought that they did it, if I thought they could have done better, then I'd want to encourage people to think about different ideas of how they could do better. So yeah, I get that.
And that's
Um
kind of like the death penalty. It's like we're making a decision, on someone else's life. You know what I'm saying? Like there's like the
yeah.
debate, should we do the death penalty or not? So it's like I do judge, like, if someone is trying to take out the other's life, because it's like, who are they to say whether that animal should live or die, you know?
Yeah, but I think it's we have the capability of reasoning, and I would say it's very reasonable to assume that there's a chance, a good chance, that any given animal that's suffering would prefer to be put out of its misery than not. So I could see either side. I don't think you owe it putting it out of its misery if you just want to let it take its course and it dies naturally. Um, it could be good because that could turn out into a case where it actually survives and heals on its
Mm-hmm.
own. But I think we can observe from situations in nature. There's this one quote I saw that was talking about the first time we realized that humans work together was the first time a bone healed, because for all animals throughout all of nature, for the most part, if an animal breaks a bone, that animal's dead. There's no coming back from that. They will
Mm-hmm.
die. They will die. They'll be picked off. Something will happen. And the first time humans were able to take time and effort to help another human from their bones, help them to heal, led to this case of us working together and figuring this thing out. So I think so anyways, I just think that if we can use our reasoning, if we can use, we have a mixture of our reasoning just from imagine taking what we know of a situation, even if it's very little, and figuring out the best likely case. But then we can also use our reasoning mixed with our understanding and our observations. If we study animals and make documentaries of animals out in the wild, and we see what they do, and we recognize that if this happens to an animal, there's no way it's going to be fine on its own. Let's say that every case documentarians noticed a broken wing from a bird, that bird never comes back. It will always die 100% of the time from what they've seen. Then I would say that it would be reasonable for a reasoning person to say that that bird, since birds can suffer and are suffering with a broken wing, and from what we know it will die, that it might be better to put it out of its misery. So I'm not saying that your option's wrong of letting it flop around
Mm-hmm.
and likely die, but I don't think it's fair to call the other option necessarily wrong.
Hmm. I come from a place of benefit of the doubt, you know.
Mhm.
I give it the benefit of the doubt, where it's like, if there is some possibility that there's going to be good out of it, I'm going to try to strive for that. Because just how I was saying, violence begets more violence, as you're saying, good begets more good. Because once we start healing, then now we relieve society of suffering. Now that we changed the narrative from you know, animals when they get a broken bone, or humans or whoever, that's a death sentence for them,
Mhm.
to a situation where now just that one animal might have gotten their bone healed, but now all the other animals that come past it are going to also have their like bones healed, and they will have an ability to live. So it's like, once you start a good in a direction, it keeps going and
Well, that
expanding.
from our knowledge, that would only happen from humans healing other animals. They don't really have the capability of anything like what we could do with like a veterinarian clinic.
But just like how like humans can learn from other humans, animals could probably even learn from us too. So it's like it creates that situation where, you know, there's a state of learning and ability to be, you know, better
I
off
would
than before.
I would need to hear more to think that animals can learn from us. I mean, we could domesticate an animal and train it. That's about as far as the learning could go, would be kind of breaking something in and training it to listen to our commands. But I don't think they can learn from us as far as to help each other heal from their broken wings.
Yeah, I think we kind of give animals a lot less credit than they deserve. But say hypothetically they can't, at least we're giving it the situation a chance for it to be able to. And that's a lot better than having no chance at all, because then you got no hope. You
Uh,
know what I'm saying? Having
maybe.
hope is a lot better than nothing.
Well, I
That's
don't
what
know
I'm
if birds
saying.
have hope, but
Well, the thing is, I think there is something about like mimic neurons and mimic abilities and other animals. So I feel like there are, I think there are, you know, situations where I heard that animals learn from humans, but I gotta like, and other animals, but I have to like confirm that by
for
researching
sure.
it. Yeah.
For sure. And these things are all complicated and there's lots to learn and lots to think about.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I actually am going to call, I'm going to call the wildlife place and see what their thoughts are on various
Nice.
different injuries of animals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of any last thoughts, because I mean we could delve into different types of animals that are hurt, but I think it would all play
Yeah.
out about the same. The other one I took out of its misery was, there I was driving down a road and there was a squirrel that must have got ran over, and like parts of its body, maybe its back two legs and its tail, were like flattened, and it was just like flopping around trying to, trying to survive. But
Mm-hmm.
it seems so beyond repair that I thought the best thing for it was to put it out of its misery, and I just turned around and drove over the rest of it. But I mean,
Wow. Yeah.
but I don't know, like I don't know if a rescue place would drive out to a street and hope that no cars hit it before it gets out there, like most
Well,
animals in
you
disease.
know, because that's like a cost. So if it's a cost for others to try to help out something that's already in a debilitated state, now you are worsening those that are in a good state. And then,
Yeah.
you know, if you have everything driving into some place of destruction, then you can increase the amount of destruction in like what's good. So as I said, that you have to take it from a comparative standpoint and add up all the percentages to see if that situation, that direction makes sense or not. So it goes back to that. But I kind of do judge, like, people who do take like the animals out of their misery. So in that situation you spoke of, you caused them to suffer. But the thing is, you're kind of punishing the animal for making it suffer in the first place.
Wait,
Like, you're
I
not.
caused, you said I
Yeah.
caused it to suffer?
Yeah, by running it over. And now you're causing it more suffering by killing it. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
I didn't run it over to
Uh,
begin with.
oh, okay. I
When
thought.
I was driving, I noticed it had gotten hit by another car.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, where humans punish animals and then we punish them more because we punish them. It happened with like the pandemic, like well, or not the pandemic, but there are certain like diseases like bird flu and stuff where we create a situation where these animals get diseases and then give it to us, and then we punish the animal for giving us the diseases that we caused in the first place by killing them. It's like, why don't we look at ourselves and see, why are we so destructive, and how can we stop being so destructive, to not like take the violence, like not punish others for what we do wrong. Like, we're the ones
Yeah.
driving here,
No, there are a lot of things to learn and work on and fix. But for example, using the reasoning I was referring to, if a car ran over a squirrel and destroyed like half of its body, and let's say, and I'm pretty sure I could find out by just calling a vet and asking, but let's say we know that squirrel cannot survive. There's no way for it to survive, but it's alive enough for, I don't know, I'd guess an hour maybe or less, flopping around, just suffering and in pain. And I feel like if we knew that, like a vet was going to say, this cannot live even with help, let alone leaving it to nature. I don't know. I think the more compassionate thing to do would be to, as quickly as possible, take it out of its misery.
So like, what you're trying to do is like resolve the situation. So for if I believe if someone causes damage, it's their responsibility to fix it. But when you're killing an animal, you're kind of shooing the problem away by saying, well, it's run over. We don't like this problem, instead of trying to fix the animal, take out the road, everything. You're saying, well, let's get rid of the animal. Let's not
Yeah.
have it in our minds the problem anymore. You see what
Well,
I'm saying?
yes and no. I mean, I agree with you looking at the issues like, okay, what's the problem? We got a road, we got cars, we have the animals don't consent to being hit and not understanding cars. So yes, we could figure out ways to make our roads not have animals cross them. I'm all about that. But what I'm saying is separate from that, because that would have to take place afterwards. I'm just saying, if we know from all the professionals in the world, say if a squirrel's half of its body is ran over, but it's still alive, flopping around, they can recognize its suffering and that there's no way to come back from that. Let's just say I was the one to have ran it over initially.
Yeah, let's just do that.
Because the other person's not there for the responsibility to be on them. So if you're saying the responsibility is on me to fix the issue, there's no issue to fix, but there is a possibility of taking it out of its misery versus letting it suffer for its last half hour to an hour of life.
Well, it's like you're not thinking about how you can fix the life. You're not even taking into consideration the animal, what it wants,
So what are your
If
thoughts?
it's looking at you and saying, I'm miserable and I don't want to have this misery anymore, like, the first thing you got to do is think, like, how can I make this animal's life first better and try to get it to live? Because you took its life away from it. It's like, you got to give that life back that you took.
How do you do that?
You know what I'm saying? That's like the first part.
I do not know what you're saying.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, like, say you steal something from
No, 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 no,
someone,
no. I don't need a
you don't
hypothetical.
like kill
No,
them,
I
you know?
I'm saying what
So it's like you
I know
stole that life from the animal.
I
So
know. So
it's like you
I'm
got to
saying what
give
do
it
you
back
I
to
hear
the
that.
animal. Go ahead.
Yeah, I hear that part. I'm wondering what that is that you're saying. How do you do that?
You try to like fix that half of that body that you missed, and if not, you got to give it something to it that you took from it. Like if you cannot like fix it, replace it or something,
Well, what
give
do you
it
mean?
something that's an equivalent.
Like
Like
what?
say I like steal $1 from someone and I don't have $1 to give them back because I spent it.
Yeah, you can
Maybe
give
I
them
have
anything.
something that's worth $1 to them
Yep.
instead, you know?
100%. So, but we're talking about a squirrel that is going to die in a half hour to an hour. Half of its body is squished. What can you give to it?
Well, that's something you got to think about. Like
Yeah,
because
I'm
it's
ready.
you got to think, what did you take from it? What part of you can you give to it to make it be able to have
But yeah, but we know what I would do. I would put it out of
a
its
resolve.
misery. I'm
But the
wondering
thing
what
is,
you would do. What would you do?
so that's what I'm saying. Like, wait, hold on. What I'm saying is, when you take from something, what your solution is to take more from it, so that
But I
now
want my
it has not only half a life done, it has the other half
I want
taken
my
from it too.
I want what I would do to be whatever you're going to say you would do if I find it reasonable. I'm guessing
So, like,
I won't
let
find
me
it
just
reasonable.
say it's me. I ran
Mhm,
it over half.
mhm.
Like, the first thing I'm going to do is look at the animal and see what does it want. Like, if it says I'm suffering, help me out, or it says I'm suffering, I don't want help, I just want this to be over with, I'm
Do
going
you
to go
do you
based off of
I'm
what
going to
the
pause you real
animal
quick.
first.
I'm going to pause you real quick. Do you think most people could look at an animal flopping around and look at its eyes and get a vibe for what the animal's saying?
I mean, if animals are able to do that with us, because they say that dogs are able to recognize and pick up on cues of what humans do, I believe that we do are able to pick up on cues. Like
Okay.
we have that intuition. It's just we don't utilize it because we're just thinking in our heads, what do we want to do, rather than like interacting with the environment, like the situation, because you created a situation. Now
Okay.
if you don't think about it,
Okay,
you're
go
not
on.
seeing it.
Okay, I just wanted to check. Okay, so I want to
Yeah.
hear what you would do
So
based
I
on
need to
that.
first
Yeah.
immerse myself in the environment and feel what's going on and see it, because it's now real. Like it's now something. It's like if I can't connect with it, and like
Mhm.
disconnecting from it is just making decisions based off of what you see. It's not
Mhm.
connection. So
Yep.
connecting to it is like seeing how bad the situation really is,
Mhm.
to see like how much damage you did.
Mhm. Yep.
And so
But we
that's
already
where
know
that
all that.
second
So yeah, so what do you
second
do?
step is. So say I take half of that squirrel's life. I'm
Mhm.
going to try to make up for it. Like say it has a family, then maybe I'd have to give back to that family something that it's missing, which is that squirrel, that it loses if I really can't save it. Whatever I take away from it, if say it's able to come back to life even though it's half run over,
Mhm.
then that's the amount I would owe it. Is that time of recovery. If it
Yeah.
if its life is done, that's
Mhm.
how much I owe the situation. Maybe not like not only to the squirrel, but everything else there too. So I'd have to give back to the situation to make
So
up
what do
for
you
my
give?
wrongdoing.
What are you giving
You know,
back?
it depends on the situation, but say with the squirrel,
We
as I
yeah.
said, I would have to give back the loss of the squirrel's life to maybe its family, or the loss to the environment of the where the squirrel was. Like give back something.
What does that
You
mean?
see what
What
I'm
does that
saying?
mean? I don't. What does that mean? What are
Hmm?
you giving? I do not see what you're saying. What are you giving back?
I'm giving back the value of the amount of loss of that animal
Yeah, what is
to
that?
that place. It depends on like the proportion of the animal's worth to the environment. Like say it was invasive, Well, now I
Mhm.
did it the environment service by, it's life ending.
Okay.
Um,
So you wouldn't be
so
giving
then
anything back
if
in that
anything, I
case.
gave to the environment rather than took from it.
Yep.
So if anything, the environment owes me, so I base it off of proportion.
Yep.
But in
Okay.
that way, like it doesn't mean I don't owe the animal its life, because I took from it. But to the environment, I benefited it. So now it's its turn, falls in its court.
Do you
So
well here's the thing. Question. Sorry to cut you off, but like,
no, it's okay.
so okay. So we got two different cases, and let's say
Yeah.
you run the squirrel over, and then you can't bring it back. It's half of its body's gone, and then you let it suffer and die for half hour to an hour. And then we got a separate situation that's identical where I run the squirrel over, and it half of its body can't bring it back, and then I put it out of its misery and kill it. So the question is, if me and you each have to give back value to the land or other squirrels or whatever the things you were saying, would I have to give less value back because I helped it not be in misery? So you would have to give maybe 100%, but I would give 90% of value.
Like if I ran the half over and you ran the other half over,
Yeah,
like
if your
you took
final
its life out,
Mhm.
and did you even consult the animal? So if you don't consult the animal, then you took out half of its life. Maybe it's not like, maybe it's suffering,
Mhm.
so it's not that much of a value of its life to itself. It would die anyway. But
Mhm.
cutting it short, now you have that half hour that you took from its life that it was
Uh,
living.
oh, so I would owe more value than you'd owe.
No less. You would only own that, like, say, half hour. But for me, I took it out its life sooner, so I owe it way more than you do. You know what I'm saying?
You took it out
Because I
sooner? What
ended.
do you mean?
If I run it half over and it only has a half hour left to live
Huh?
versus the amount of life it could have lived altogether,
No, we
then
both did that though. So the only difference between what we both did, we both ran it over, but you're choosing to let it suffer for a half hour, and I'm choosing to take it out of its misery. Did which element caused more harm, my action or your action?
it was my action because I was the one that caused it to have its life cut short.
No, I
You
did the
know what
same.
I'm saying?
I think you might not be
Because
understanding what
the
I'm
thing is,
saying.
like, for you, like, you would have, if you weren't there, then it would just die in a half hour.
Uh-huh.
So you're just taking out that half hour. But me, it could have lived maybe another few years, but I made it cut short.
No, in mine,
What
I
potential?
no, in my hypothetical, I ran it over too.
Oh, okay.
So we
Yeah, but
both
you ran it over after me.
no, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have
Separately,
it mixed up.
it's all right. Separately on two streets. I'm on Elm Street and you're on MLK. Um,
Okay.
and you run over a squirrel and I run over a squirrel. We both separately on two different streets, two different squirrels. We both run over
Okay.
half of its body. It's
Mm-hmm.
suffering. And any reasoning we could do in this world where we talk to veterinarians, talk to everybody, that squirrel cannot come back. It can either suffer for a half hour or you can put it out of its misery. If I put my squirrel out of its misery, and then let's say I owe a certain amount of value back to that area or whatever you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, and then you let yours suffer and then yours dies, and then you owe a certain amount of value back to that area, which one out of me and you owes more value if you intentionally let it suffer with the knowledge we have with our reasoning?
Well, for me, like, I actually would, in those last half hours, like, when someone's dying on their deathbed, like, they whisper something to you at the very end, like, about something. So I would try to listen to it first, like, what was going on, like, maybe it was trying to reach for some nut or something to give to their family. So I'd try to, like, see what they, need first. So maybe that provides way more value and restoration than yours does.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
So that's why I'm saying, like, it depends. So based off of how much destruction that is caused, wait, hold on a second, hold on. Based off of how much destruction is caused versus how much that you restored of it is how much you owe that situation to the squirrel, to
Mm,
the environment, to everything impacted by it. So
gotcha.
that half hour could make or break anything. So in that half hour, maybe the squirrel starts like recovering, but you
Mhm.
killed it, and I saw it starting to recover and I saved it and it did come back to life,
Yeah.
so now
Well,
you have something worse. Or like
yeah.
maybe I see it was going to do something, or maybe you know killing it actually did a lot better than what I did about looking at it. Like
Mhm.
you can't really compare these two situations because they're just not really comparable, because anything can happen. It's like anything can change where the what I did was better and yours is worse, or yours is better and mine is worse. It just, what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't even
definitely.
matter.
Yeah. No, I find it interesting for sure. But yeah, I think that's a good place to stop. But yeah, that was a good conversation. I'm gonna think about that some more, and next time we talk, I'll let you know what I found out from the wildlife place.
Yeah, right now we're like, who's right? And then you'll come back, you'll be like, I know
Oh no,
who's right.
no. No, 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 no.
I'm just messing.
I don't think there's a
No,
right or
I was
wrong.
just joking.
Um, but yeah,
Because there isn't a right or wrong. Yeah.
yeah, I probably won't ask about the squirrel on the road because that one seems too obvious to me. But maybe I will. But I was mostly just gonna
Yeah.
see which animals they like to be called about, and if you have to take something to them versus them coming to you. I think with the squirrel I found I had to take it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so all those things are different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm
It,
curious to see what other people think about this, and leave in the
yeah.
comments, and maybe we'll have a follow-up. But
Sounds
yeah,
good.
you have a good day.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You too.
All right,
Mhm.
take care.